Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, and it is without a doubt the lineup you would have dreamt of today. Three former Scottish internationals, Craig Burley, Don Hutchison and Stevie Nicol, here to reflect on the opening game between Germany and the aforementioned Scotland, and what a tight affair it proved to be for a couple of minutes. And then Germany would run riot. They were fantastic in the first half. Florian Wirtz opening the score in Musiala. Fantastic feat to make it 2-0, and things will then get worse for Scotland as Scotland down to 10 men. Ryan Porteous be sent off. Kai Havertz converting the penalty. How would they come out in the second half? Well, Fulkrug would come on as a sub and score a cracker. Rudiger would help Scotland out, in fact, and score an own goal. Emre Can with a late strike would see Germany win by 5-1. Look at Scotland's XG.
0.01.
Is that
the point one? The 0-1?
I don't know. No.
Is that the low? Has there ever been a 0.00?
There must have been at some stage in some competition, but I'm guessing not in the Euros. We'll obviously talk about Scotland
Not only
later on.
Euros, but the Euros opening game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like anybody was watching.
No, exactly.
Nobody noticed.
We will focus on Germany, obviously. How good were they today? They were fantastic.
No, they were, but they were allowed to be. I mean, let's be honest. When you go to a major championship, you're playing the opening game, you know the eyes are on you, particularly in Germany and Munich, and you have to perform. At least be hard to beat, at least be organised. If you're going to set a little deeper, which they did, you got to be. If you're going to play a compact game, you got to be compact, and they were not. And so those clever players, Musiala, Wirtz, Gundogan. I mean, Toni Kroos, welcome back to international football in the big stage, because he just got the run of the show, and you can't allow that. I mean, to be frank, it was from a Scottish point of view, it was embarrassing. You can only obviously beat the opposition that's in front of you, Don, but Germany did that with some style today.
They did. I mean, at one point, I think Toni Kroos had 100% pass completion. Musiala had the same. It was far too easy, but they were really good. They were slick. Doesn't help Scotland when you're 1-0 down for 10 minutes. It's a worst-case scenario moment. But the way they played, I couldn't fathom Scotland's tactics. Because why would you allow Toni Kroos so much time and space on the ball? It was magnificent, but he was allowed to be. But from the Germans' point of view, you get off to that sort of start, you score 5, opening game of the tournament, they were immaculate. A dream start for the hosts, obviously, Steve.
Well, if you're hungry in Switzerland and you obviously watch this game, then you know that if you stand off Germany, then they're going to tear you apart. You know, they came into this tournament kind of unknown. On paper, they've got good players, but as a team, as a unit, we weren't sure. But as I said, the one thing we know now is that if you do stand off them and let them play, then they're going to kill you. And that's exactly what they did to Scotland today. Live in Germany for us throughout the tournament, Julien joins us. What a statement from the host, Jules.
Yeah, great win, of course. The biggest win in the competition's opening game ever, really. Biggest game, I think, was also to start a tournament for Germany in their history. Great, like Craig and the boys said, everything went their way too. To be fair, they started so well, opening the scoring against a team that is going to play deeper and compact, or trying to. Is perfect because you just unlock it and then you can control a bit more. And obviously the Scots then at 1-0 down try to get out a little bit more, and that left spaces and stuff. We knew though this Germany team was going to be much better than the Scots. And even if Scotland were a bit disappointed, we saw what we wanted from Musiala, we saw what we wanted from Wirtz. We saw the width with Kimmich and Mittelstadt, the two fullbacks that played really, really high. We saw Toni Kroos dictating the pace of that game. This is exactly what we wanted, really. And again, I'm not sure if this team against tougher opposition can be as good, but tonight it was almost perfect.
Who stood out for you from Germany today, Craig?
Well, Kroos, Musiala, Wirtz in particular, Gundogan.
We talked yesterday, didn't we, about how Wirtz and Musiala were going to play together. Did you see something that's going to work going forward?
What Scotland needed was the Hansi Flick Germany, and that evolved under Nagelsmann. When he took the job, we were like, this could be a bit of a bonkers decision because Germany had been poor for quite some time. But he kind of outed some of the older guard, and he's decided, and it's not always been perfect, but we certainly saw glimpses of it, or more than glimpses, in the game against France, where they completely outplayed. Well, they outplayed France for long periods, and you were like, wow, that's something different. But it was how they were going to get Wirtz and Musiala in and still get the balance right. That's the most. It's all very well just saying, right, they're two fantastic young players. They'll pick defences open, get them in the team. But then you got to figure out the rest. And with Andrich coming in as a bit of an enforcer and Kroos coming back, and Kimmich going to right back because that's where he was stuck by Tuchel in the end at Bayern. And obviously the form of the Leverkusen players like Jonathan Tah, Antonio Rudiger, all these scenarios, and he's managed to mould them. But again, if you've got 5 at the back and you're trying to play compact, you can't allow, I think it was the second goal, Musiala goal, when you're poking balls through to Gundogan in the middle of the park and McGregor's not getting close to him and McTominay's not getting close to him.
I couldn't understand McTominay's role today.
That's not what you're trying...
I couldn't understand
The other thing I couldn't understand was the first goal, sorry. You got 5 at the back, and maybe Stevie will know a bit more as a full-back. You've got 5 at the back, yet Andy Robertson is holding the left side centre-backs who was Tierney. He's holding his hand almost.
Right.
Now you've got 3 centre... Even if they push an extra one from midfield to support Havertz, you still got 3 centre-backs there. You don't have to, as a wing-back, hold the hand of the other centre-half.
Say they were not,
and that allowed an easy switch.
They were nothing like that, what you see in that. You see that system there, and you go, that makes sense. 3 centre-backs, 2 wing-backs, 2 midfield players, Christy McGinn, Adams up front. They were nothing like that. It was a back 6 or 7 at times. They were far too deep. Che Adams was exposed in the second half. He obviously went off and they had no centre-forward because they'd gone down to 10 men, which sort of made it worse because there was no out ball. But I couldn't understand, you know, when Scotland are in a low block, at least you have to sort of shift across and pivot to your left-hand side or right-hand side. It shouldn't be that much hard work. Even though you're playing against a German side who control the ball, the distances, if they're correct, it shouldn't be too taxing on the legs. Where Scotland got played off the park, they were ragged. They were all over the place. Just on, we were talking about Florian Wirtz yesterday and Musiala. I mean, I talk about Phil Foden taking the ball in tight areas on the back foot. We were watching that game today, the 3 of us, 4 of us, we're going, how good is his feet, Musiala?
This is Musiala, yeah.
How good are his feet?
Yeah.
Like, unreal.
How difficult is it to defend someone like that, Stevie, who can move the ball so quickly?
If they're getting a supply of the ball and you don't get close to them, then it's impossible. Because the only thing you can do with any player with that amount of ability is get in their face and upset them and get in the rhythm. And when you don't do any of that, then you see what they can do. And the pressure was on Wirtz and Musiala.
Yeah.
I mean, think how much they must have been talking about them in Germany, because we've been talking about them. And they got them the ball. Right, OK, we've got you the ball. Let's see what you can do. And so what do? They tear Scotland apart. But from a Scotland point of view, it's one thing, and it's never changed. You can get bodies behind the ball, but ultimately, you have to close the ball. It's no point in being behind it and not doing a job. And Scotland, as a unit, Don's talking about not getting sliding across. Well, they didn't slide anywhere. They didn't stand up and close the ball, and they didn't get out quick enough in the wide areas when Kroos is pinging all those balls. So, standing off players as good as Musiala and Wirtz in particular, you shouldn't be surprised when they hurt you.
It's the worst nightmare, isn't it?
See where Che Adams played today? I played that role. And a manager asks you as a centre-forward, a sort of false 9, when you lose the ball or when you haven't got the ball, make sure you drop into an area where you affect Germany's deepest player. So that was Toni Kroos. So Che Adams was in the vicinity, and you don't have to be goal side. You can be within a sort of radius. At least you stop them getting the ball. At least you be a sort of a little mini threat to say, well, you can't pass it to Toni Kroos. I mean, I lost count how many times he got the ball, controlled the game, and it was like effortless. Again, we were talking, going, like, how good is he? How silky is he? How intelligent is he? Makes the right passes. But there was no Scotland player at times. You could pick any passage you play for the first 45, I think. There was no Scotland player within 15 yards of him.
In the second half, Don, as we were watching, going, Scotland can't get out. They've got no, and I said they couldn't get out in the first half when they had a striker. Stevie Clarke's going to come in for some criticism here, because I think a lot of the Scottish media were expecting Billy Gilmour to play in the middle of the park, who's probably their best passer. They were expecting Shankland to play up front, not Che Adams. Now, would they have won the game? Probably not. No, but I think the media are always looking for an angle, and this is embarrassing. It's not like they were beaten 1-0. They were absolutely gubbed, and there was 2 goals chopped off, and I think there always has to be a scapegoat, and that is the manager. But it's the worst scenario as a player. If you get beaten in the third game and you're out, and you can go home. If you get walloped, you can go home. You're out, that's it. See you on the beach. cover your ears.
Right.
It's the first game.
Yes.
You've got to pick yourself
With the
off.
world watching as well.
You've got to pick yourself off the floor here in the hotel tonight.
Yeah.
No point wallowing in self-pity and all that. We were talking
you
about
wonder.
it. Have a beer. And I mean this in all seriousness.
Yeah.
You've got to go back, have a couple of beers.
Get off social media.
Chill out. Try and forget about it. And pick. If you go back, start picking the bones out of that, watching videos, you're just going to send the players absolutely even more depressed to bed. They've got 2 games to play.
Yeah.
And they're 2 decent sides, Hungary and particularly Switzerland. So Stevie Clarke has he's got to feel the mood of where the players are here and how he goes about it. Otherwise, they are dead.
I wouldn't watch any analysis of that. You know, normally when you're away on international duty, you watch a lot of analysis.
Really, would you?
Yeah, you watch an awful lot of analysis. If you're Stevie Clarke tonight, I would watch 0 analysis of that.
No.
Because it's bad enough as it is.
Yeah. I just want to get back to Germany, and as Stevie said, Jules, obviously, Florian Wirtz, Musiala, very much the 2 poster boys, given what the generational talent that they have. How impressive were they today, and how much pressure was on them going into this tournament?
I thought they were hugely impressive. And one of the question marks we had, and everybody here in Germany talking about their team before the tournament was, okay, can they play together? Can you have those 2 10s, inside 10s? Because they're not going to play like wide players, really. And play them there with Gundogan dropping, with Havertz dropping as well, with Kroos being there. And that could look very narrow. Even without Kimmich and Mittelstadt on each side, the 2 fullbacks, it could be very narrow. But just you look again, the intelligence and the football IQ that all of them have, especially Wirtz and Musiala, because Gundogan is experienced now, Kroos obviously as well. But for 2 young players in their first ever tournament competitions like this, to play with so much intelligence, awareness of where the space is, where they should go or not go, because there's already one of the teammates there. It's amazing. And then the technical ability in 2 different styles is obviously baffling. But they were, and again, they will face tougher opposition, there's no doubt. And team that stay at 11 against 11 for longer. But you saw some of the passes, the quality. There's on the full goal, the ball from Musiala towards Gundogan from the left-hand side is magnificent. And then obviously there's a bit of luck. The ball falls onto Füllkrug. It's a great finish. But that first ball, a bit like the Gundogan one on the Musiala goal that Stevie mentioned earlier for Havertz, perfect. And I think this is those moments of beauty and genius that they have. And it's pretty impressive to see them so young, but already being so good and capable of playing together.
But as Joe said there, they won't get an easier game in this competition, no matter how far they go. In fact, I don't think you'll get an easier opening game for any country in a competition. That's how it was. It was men against boys. Let's call it as it is. John McGinn, who was excellent for Aston Villa this season. I mean, how many passes did he get? Did he make any? I mean, he hardly got on the ball. I mean, it was beyond embarrassing. So it's a great start for them. It was on a plate.
Right.
And the challenge, what made it worse for Scotland, clearly, but the game was going away from them anyway, was the Porteous red card, which was a penalty, and it was a ridiculous challenge. And so he deserved to...
I tell you what, criticism of VAR, people who don't like it, they got everything right today, didn't it? Right throughout
there was an excellent referee anyway.
Right throughout the 90 minutes.
Right, I think he's possibly the best in the world, this referee. But yeah, this nonsense about VAR, particularly in elite level stuff like this, you have to get it spot on. Now, there will be subjective handballs, of course.
Yeah.
And also our sometimes colleague Mark Clattenburg, who was working...
sometimes colleague, I like the way to describe him.
What's for everybody?
Because you've only got to dangle $1 in front of him. It worked for you.
He's got a lot of colleagues.
He come on and explained those decisions early on brilliantly.
Yes.
But once we saw the replays of the Porteous challenge, I understand it's 6 yards out, you're desperate, you're going to make a challenge, but it was an ankle breaker, wasn't it? So it was always going to be a penalty.
And of course, he adds his name to that illustrious list of Scottish players who have been sent off in major tournaments alongside our very own Craig Burley.
Listen, at least that lasted 53. And I tell you, the other thing is, if you're going to get sent off, make sure it's at the World Cup.
Right, I see. The Euros is very much second best.
No, well, listen, it is what it is. As I say, I haven't seen him play that often, but reading between the lines of some of the Scottish journalists, he has that kind of rash challenge in him.
Oh, look. Oh, that's when you had that stupid haircut as well.
Should have got sent off for the haircut. I mean, that's a straight red.
I actually think...
Swimming cap.
What were you thinking there?
What?
Seriously, what were you thinking there?
I think it's all the look.
Distracts from the teeth. That's the point.
But again, that was the third game, so it was. No, it doesn't matter. But you know, look, what can you do?
Yeah,
it's done. I don't think it was in any way, shape, or form affected the outcome of this game.
No.
Germany were far superior. We expected that to happen, and what a turnaround it's been for them. I know Scotland are not the best opposition, but what a turnaround it's been from those disappointing days of Hansi Flick.
Yes.
Honestly, did anybody think, and we don't know how far they'll go, maybe they'll have 2 bad results against Hungary and Switzerland. Did anybody really think he could turn that ship around in terms of the performances from where they were with Hansi Flick, who's obviously a decent manager, had a great resume at Bayern Munich, he's now got the Barca job, and he's gone in there and it's like he's just energised this whole German camp. They were absolutely on the floor 12 months ago.
Tell you what was great for them as well, it'd be good for Nagelsmann, the empathy that he had bringing Emre Can on, scoring, Füllkrug coming on, scoring. So you're making players who are coming on part of the team, part of the system. So whether you've got a group of players that are on the bench and not happy because you want to play, you've got your ego, I think for the team spirit, that result and the guys that come off the bench and have an impact will be quite big for them.
Is there any sort of argument that Füllkrug should start ahead of Kai Havertz? He's kind of cemented himself as a super sub, hasn't he?
Yeah. No, I think... Listen, I think if you're Germany, you actually have to cool your jets a little bit and when you analyse this game, realise what you were up against.
Right.
You were up against a side that are nowhere close to you. You're up against a side that, in terms of performance, got it horribly wrong. And for the majority of the game, you were playing against 10 men. So you have to take all these things into account. And I don't see why he would start anything other than the 11 that started against Scotland.
Would that not be a scenario if you're Germany, you're not going to have a lot of possession of the ball? Would Füllkrug not then be... I
think you've got to get your rhythm going. And yes, he made changes, but, you know, I think it's important that the majority of players know what the starting 11 is. I think it's important you get a starting 11 and then you have people fighting to get in. And then you have people like Füllkrug coming on and saying, right, the only way I'm getting in this team is I score a hat-trick, never mind just score a goal. So I think it's important that you get an 11 and then you've got a couple of changes that you know you can make. But there's no way, in my opinion, you change the 11 that started this game.
I think Havertz plays, and they're 2 different players. I think Nagelsmann likes the Havertz movement and the link-up. And he's got a bit of physicality about him, as we know. He's a big lad. And he's a different player to Füllkrug. Füllkrug's one that posts up a little bit more. We'll sort of run the channels. We'll get in the box for crosses. Havertz will drop a little deeper. We'll try and link up. We'll come short. Gundogan can make runs. So they're different players. And I think Nagelsmann likes the movement of Havertz, and that's why he plays.
Jules, if this was in England, as you well know, the hype would be through the roof. Is the same sort of thing you're expecting in Germany?
Yeah, it felt like you're already on television. Per Mertesacker was on the equivalent, like the terrestrial channel, the coverage, and they were really, really like milking it massively. And I think they were also the perception and the performance of Scotland was also there. And then they're right, to be fair, it's the perfect start for them in terms of confidence, momentum for a team like Craig just said that was so bad a year ago, that was been terrible in the last 3 tournaments. It's amazing, really amazing. So great start. You can only beat what's in front of you. 11 men, 10 men, it doesn't matter. They can think about the next game. But everything that Nagelsmann would have wanted to see, as we've been saying, he saw tonight. I like the fact that he took off Hendrik at half-time because he was already on a yellow card. Don't take any risks. There's no need. You win the second game, you're probably through. In the third game, you play your subs, you play Füllkrug, you play Can, you play Thomas Müller, who came on, and who's really there for the leadership and the experience, not much more. But today it was good for him to play out. There's others that could have come on. You play them in the third game, and you already look forward to the last 16 then. So really perfect start. I don't think they'll get carried away. This is a football country. They know too well that you can't get carried away after a game like that. And then they see for the next game.
How do you think Derek Ray is tonight?
Well, it's that gap in
He's
your
in
bed.
Berlin, I think.
Who's in your bed, Jules? We just saw their hand. Is that Gab?
Oh, that's my nephew, Alex.
Ah,
He's staying with me for a few days. Yeah. I told you not to. Alex, no.
They're going to go awkward.
By the way, I didn't mean I wonder where Derek Ray is. In terms of, when Jill said he's in Berlin, I wonder where he is on the old... because, you know,
Derek gets a lot of shout-outs on this.
But it's the German thing, you know. You may have noticed he quite likes Germany.
Right then.
I think you're supporting Germany or Scotland today?
I don't know, Craig.
I'm amused by this.
Is Scotland going to go through?
I don't think they were ever going to go through.
No.
Because I think Germany are the strongest in the group, and then I think it's Switzerland, and then I think it's Hungary, and I think it's clearly Scotland. So for me, the two out of this group to go through are going to be Germany and Switzerland.
Yeah, I was never convinced they could, not just off the back of that performance, but it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help at all because you're chasing the points, but you're chasing the goal difference at the same time. And I was never too down on the Scotland team, but I never thought they'd make it through the group.
Right.
Not for me. I don't think they're good enough.
Not for you.
I don't think they're good enough.
I actually thought they had a wee sneaky before the game started.
Right.
But the way the game went and the way that they were getting so outplayed, and there wasn't anybody on the field looked as though they knew how to change anything. They just kept doing the same thing. So it certainly wasn't coming from the sidelines, and it didn't look to me as though there was anybody on the field was trying to change things. You know, you were talking earlier about Shea Adams dropping in there. There's nobody telling him to get back in there and get in a proper spot.
Gonna have to be
there's nobody going around saying we need to close the ball. So it felt as though it was like a deer in the headlights.
It's going to have to be some mentality shift, though.
So
you get done 5-1 in the opening game.
I don't see how they get through at all.